What is your firm's mission and vision? What are you trying to accomplish? This is a really good overview to remember. If you remember why you're doing what you're doing, then how are you going to accomplish it? So digital marketing, we're in a really fun era that it's low cost, that it can be really technical. There's so much that you can do. But you need to know that there is some science and strategy to it. And I will want to make a note here. I feel like Google has been losing some of its power because of a lot of the AI searches.
Welcome and thank you for joining us for another Justia webinar. My name is Nina and I'll be the moderator for today. Now, to kick things off, I want to go ahead and introduce our speaker, Ruby Powers. Ruby L. Powers, a board-certified immigration attorney and founder of Powers Law Group PC, has over 16 years of expertise in law practice management. Author of Ayla's Build to Manage Your Successful Immigration Law Practice Without Losing Your Mind, and her book, Power Up Your Practice, available on Amazon. Ruby shares invaluable knowledge on law practice management and small business consulting. Through Powers Strategy Group, LLC, she provides strategic consulting services and hosts the informative podcast, Power Up Your Practice, launched in 2024. The webinar presentation that you're about to watch will be approximately 1 hour, and Ruby will be taking questions from the audience once that presentation is complete. If you have any questions that come up at any time during the presentation, please feel free to click the Q&A button in the control panel at the bottom of your screen and send them in there so we can answer them towards the end of the presentation. Now, without further ado, here is Ruby to discuss beyond targeting, designing a legal brand that speaks to your clients.
Thank you so much, Nina. Well, this is an exciting topic. I love marketing in general. I think I had an early start while being a Rotary Youth Exchange student, and our goal was to tell others that while we were living abroad about the United States and our culture. And so actually it's fitting today with 26-year anniversary of me going to Belgium as an exchange student. So I didn't really time that, but that's really fun. And so I would say a lot of the things I learned in marketing, I think I learned in high school. But anyway, and I kept getting better over time. So beyond targeting, designing that legal brand that speaks to your clients, I'll also say that in this genre, in this topic, sometimes people think it's just hire someone younger than themselves to go post things on social media, but there's way more to marketing than that, and giving some more practical, tactical, strategic ideas to this, and how you're organizing your marketing and communication efforts to your client. So Nina gave a really nice intro and a little bit of bio. I've been practicing for 17 years. Then my law firm is 16 years old. I was telling my law students at this last night, the Law Office of Management course I teach, that I started during the recession. And so in 2008, so that really, I started in 2009, the practice, but I had to really hustle and make client referrals and go out there and find clients. I was really jealous of all the people who'd had a practice a lot longer than me. At that point, I had it 0 days because they were really relying a lot on referrals. And you have to remember, you start somewhere. You have to get out there. And I've also noticed that even beyond just getting referrals, we still have to continue to get new business and keep feeding that pipeline. And so started the practice back in 2009, ran it from Dubai for a little while, and that really made me leverage technology, board certified in immigration, written 2 books about law practice management. The most recent one, which I think, we're going to Power Up Your Practice. We'll see an image of it. And have a podcast with the same name, Power Up Your Practice. So we'll go ahead and get started. But my primary area of expertise is immigration law, and also love to talk and communicate and consult and about and teach on law practice management. So I think if you've probably heard me speak before, I really like to focus on taking something away from our session and not just letting it come in and out. And maybe you're trying to, have a sandwich or take some notes or have a meeting or do something else at the same time. It gets really hard when you're trying to switch tasks. So, just primarily on this focus, highly suggest making some notes on the side or, typing as we're going of what your takeaways are and what you would do. And maybe you are an expert at marketing, and this is just a refresher. I do the same thing. I love to listen to others and make sure that I'm on top of my game. But think about what are your big takeaways from today's session, and what would you prioritize your efforts if you were to put some, what would you do differently? And would you be able to start putting into action? All right, so let's go ahead. This is the roadmap. So preliminary research, I'm going to give you some questions to ask yourself. We're going to be talking about a story brand. It's a concept with from a book that I read. I mentioned in my book, and I'll tell you the author's name in a second. Who's your target audience? A lot of times we forget to think about who's our ideal avatar. Sometimes they say, who do we really want? And a lot of times we just get one and then we just stick with it, and then we're like, okay, that's great. But we really need to think about who do we really ideally want and how to target them. I also want to mention about the sales funnel. I think that's a great visual, but it's also very practical about how to organize the data and making sure you're uh yeah, we can provide the slides. Being able to be able to watch those numbers in real time, and the digital and traditional marketing resources, effective content. I'm giving you some examples that I've used when both businesses, Power Strategy Group and Powers Law Group, and also the importance of recycling, reuse, recycle, you just repurpose. That's also for content as well. And so, well, let's just do, so you'll have some theory, some strategy, and we'll also have some practical, including, I actually have a slide on some of the tools that we're using in terms of AI as well. I think it would be remiss if we don't go back to what is your firm's mission and vision? What are you trying to accomplish? This is a really good overview to remember. If you remember why you're doing what you're doing, then how are you going to accomplish it? I often say, how often do you just get in a car and just start driving? There's always like one or two people raise their hand when I ask that question. But for the most part, we always put on our little GPSs, whatever, it's on our car or phone, whatever. And we know where we're going, and then we know like how long it'll take there, and if it gets different colors or if there's anything on the road, and we have a lot of guidelines. And it's the same thing. Like if we know where we're going and why, what we stand for, it makes it easier for us to accomplish those goals. The other thing is, what is your service or product? Um, there's some people, in my case, like someone, if there's an immigration attorney, they might say, I'm an immigration attorney. And then that they might not say it, like, I help individuals, families, and businesses navigate the immigration process to realize their hopes and dreams, and to be able to reunite families and bring labor to this country, something like that. And so it's really a lot about like how it you word it, how do you visualize it, and having that sort of like thinking about what would you say in an elevator pitch, for example. But what makes your product, your service, different than others? We know that we're not just, apples to apples, a commodity. It's a professional service industry. But some people who don't normally interact with lawyers, they don't understand the difference between those things. And so, how do we communicate those key differentiators? So back to who's your target audience? What's the ideal client you would like to have? I have a business owner, not a lawyer friend, but she has these. She names the avatars. She has them so specific for her language camp course company, and I think of whenever I think of the word avatar, I think about her and how so organized she is. But in my practice, for example, I feel like I'm running five different businesses because we have employment-based immigration, investment, immigration, family-based, which can include things that we do in the US, and consular processing. We also have complex naturalization, asylum, humanitarian, and immigration court, detained and non-detained. So there's a lot of avatars there. Sometimes I do think I'm a little crazy to do all of those, but we have a great team, and I think we're able to handle that full service immigration practice. But thinking about that's a really good question. Are you doing too many things? Are you trying to be all things to yeah, everyone? And where should you conserve your energy? Who's your competition? What are they up to? What are they doing differently? It's always good to keep an eye on your competition in terms of are they doing something new and interesting, and who could you aspire to be similar to if you want, or maybe if you're so awesome in your field in your area of practice, then maybe there's someone out there you might not perceive them as your competition, but you could look up to. Maybe they're in a different city, state, or country, or even a whole other industry that you could be pulling suggestions and insights from. What's your primary goal as a brand, and what do you consider success? I think that's a really good question because sometimes we just get really just start going at it, and we might not really realize when are we successful, and what do we need to be? What do we need? What goals do we need to meet? And this really is related to goal setting as well. And really like the book Traction by Gino Wickman. And he has a whole entrepreneur operating system and concept. And he writes a lot of books about that. And there's consultants on that. But, everybody having a number and what are they trying to accomplish? So these are some really good questions to think about as we're starting this discussion. And let's go ahead and continue. So, what would be, if you were to do an audit of your branding, marketing, outward communication to obtaining new clients, your current marketing efforts, what would you what's going on? Are you doing a good job? Is your team doing well? Do you need to work on some new things? And how could you what can you do to improve? And so these are just some things that I want you to take a note of as we continue to go through. And if you were to do a real audit, like you were to pull all the numbers together from how many calls, how many contacts you get, how many consults are scheduled, and I'll go to that to the sales funnel, to how many contracts are drafted and how many cases are opened. What's your conversion rate? Are you losing anyone along the way? Where do you have room to improve? And oh yeah, I forgot to mention that I'm also on the ABA Tech Show board, and we're seeing so much great technology out there that's making marketing so much easier, especially on a budget or with a small team. And so I have a list of those AI tools, but I just wanted to do a plug for the ABA Tech Show. Will be in March in Chicago, and take a look on that for that. And if you're there, let me know and we can connect. But it's really exciting. And I asked my team to list some of the products that we're using so that we could share that as well. And what issues, if you were to prioritize and make that issues list, which Gina Wickman mentions, sort of like another word for problems, but it sounds better. Where would you prioritize your energies, and where would you act first on what you need to work on? Okay, because where would you get the biggest return on investment for your efforts? And that's really so real quickly, we've just said what's your mission and vision, who's your avatar, looking at your competition, what defines success. And then let's start thinking about your list of, I don't know if that's automated, or I don't know what happens when the person reaches us out from this direction, or I don't know if I've thanked some of the referrals that I get business from, or I don't know if someone's actually responding to all the reviews we get. So if some of these things come to mind, make a list as we progress. And then eventually you're going to be prioritizing where to put your energy and where you can get the biggest return on investment. Okay. So some of us, all of us have to be good storytellers. I think about this, and I do a lot of asylum law. And when I have to take someone's story and I have to, all the horrible things that happened to them and where their journey basically and what their thought process was. And then I have to, for a hearing, I had one on Monday actually, And then I have to convert that into a series of questions, bite-sized questions that are not leading. Um, it's quite a lot of work, right? To be able to create the flow. And what I'm thinking is that I want this to run like a movie. I want the judge or the officer, potentially for asylum interview, to sort of see what's happening and to see my client as the, um, as on their journey and how they're trying to be able to get that resolution. And so it's that hero's journey. And I think there's a lot of courses about storytelling in law. And when I first saw those, I thought that was fascinating. But it's so true because we are sharing the story of our client to help best advocate them. And people listen to stories; they love stories. This is actually I was reading this book. I mentioned it in mine. A lot of movies come back down to this equation, and that's so we are probably using this equation when we're advocating for our clients, but we might not be thinking about it. But the StoryBrand book is also talking about how we can use this to attract clients to us. This Donald Miller, sorry, I meant to do a shout out to the author. So ultimately he says and that there's just when we're posting and we're getting information out there and marketing, we're giving too much information. We're just like sort of overwhelming people. But it really comes down to there's a character that has a problem. So like there's an immigrant who is immigrant status insecure and they meet a guide who's, let's say me, who gives them a plan. I evaluate their story and I find out what they're eligible for and I say, "Hey, this is the floor. This is the lay of the land. This is what you can do. The roadmap for success." And I be their guide, and if they follow that, like a coach or guide, um, that mentor, then it eventually leads to success. And so ultimately, I'm I'm getting distilling down to this, but you can always read on your own. Is that the author is explaining like you need to make it clear that how you can provide them that plan, guide them, and lead them to success. And ultimately, I have a really good friend who's a big influencer on social media and attorney. And she I can hear her words now. She's like, ultimately comes down to a feeling as how do you make them feel? And if you give them that piece that you've gone through, you've helped others, and you've been the mentor, and you've guided them through this threshold, through this journey, and that you've been able to provide success, then this too can help them. Now, of course, we've got our lawyer brain on, and we're like, we have to be careful about our ethics and our obligations and things like that. Yes, we are. But at the same point, this is I'm explaining like how you can, if you were to put on your marketing guru hat, this is how a lot of them think on how to attract clients. And so anyway, this is the hero's journey. Take a look into it about whether or not maybe you're using this maybe inadvertently, or could you lean into it more? But also you might be find a better way to use it in maybe in the practice of law. Um, all right. So sales funnel. I did the Goldman Sachs 10,000 businesses program a decade ago, and I thought, sales funnels don't apply to us lawyers. I was the only lawyer in the room of all the other business owners, and I don't know why I was being so naive because that was just dumb. I mean, of course it applies to us. And I've been working with a former Meta data scientist, PhD expert. And the funny thing is I've been saying a lot of the same things that he says, but I realized I wasn't using the fancy data scientist words. But basically we need the data to know where we are and how we're doing. And we need that regularly. We need it trustworthy, we need it timely, and we need to be able to know what that data is telling us. So this is a sales funnel idea, and we have probably have some PI attorneys potentially on here, and they work a little bit differently with their consult concept. But let's just say for the firms that have a traditional consultation with a lawyer that leads to being hired on. I'm going to go with this idea, but you can make this be whatever you want it to in terms of the sales funnel. Okay. Awareness. I use this as how do you initially find out about the firm? And how do you make that initial contact? Is it through it could be so many things right now. There's the chats on websites, there's the contact forms, there's the phone call, there's an email, and there's now all the different DMing on all the social media accounts. I think for me, I people are messaging me on LinkedIn or on WhatsApp, text, a whole so many different ways. So you, being able to identify what are all the possible ways that people are trying to reach you, and how can uh are all of those being captured and responded to? Okay. So you want to know how many people or how many contacts those are for your numbers. And I used to say, well, to be simple, I was like, this is our phone calls, but there's way more ways now. So you can't just say it's your phone. The other thing I want to say is we're walking through this is that you have a lot of this data available if you're not already capturing it in some type of a dashboard. But if you're not, go and think, how can I start going and finding and collecting this data? So like just a real fast one for me would be to go to my phone records with Vonage, for example, to see the calls. But then how can I tell the difference if I'm not tracking that between existing clients versus prospective clients? Because that could make my conversion rate look worse if I'm just using all potential calls instead of the ones that are new business. So keeping in mind that. Okay, interests. Well, in my case, I'm talking about consultation. So how many people actually pay and have a consultation? So we charge for consult is like 30 minutes or an hour, different rates for different specialties. Um, so my question to me would be, my firm would be, how many people do we lose between awareness to that interest? And why do we lose them? Do we lose them because, I don't know, the reception isn't nice, the price is too much, we can't really help them, we're targeting the wrong people? Those are the things you need to be asking yourself once you start collecting this data. Then there's the decision. I use this as like they've requested a contract, attorney-client agreement, and how many contracts did you were drafted, and basically the final action might in my firm, I consider that hiring for the case. And so then that would be the actual finding becoming a client. So you can make this however you want. Now, if you were to have 100 units of awareness and you would have only, I don't know, 10 units of action, well, then what? And let's say you've calculated that you need, I don't know, 30 cases. So then you could reverse engineer that and say, well, I need 300 units of awareness to get those 30 cases. But then I would also say to you, where did it takes 100 awarenesses to turn into 10 cases. Maybe there's too much attrition there, and you could have a higher conversion rate if you could, stop the loss along the way. And so analyzing that. So you need the data, you need to be collecting on a regular basis. Right now, we're collecting this like manually from different departments and seeing the big picture, but we're working on with our programs and database to be able to collect it regularly through our CRM and case management software. So we're like really in the thick of this, so it's very timely for me to be doing this presentation right now. Um, so in my book, I have a chapter on marketing, and then I have one on digital marketing. And so digital marketing, we're in a really fun era, that it's low cost. It can be really technical. There's so much that you can do. But you need to know that there is some science and strategy to it, and it's not just randomly, target posting whatever, and to be thinking about who you want to attract. So it gives you attracting new clients, it gives you online presence, can create a lot of growth. It can be very cost effective and can give you a lot of multiple branding options. What are some of the other brand development, business development, and marketing? So I'm going to walk through all the different areas, the big areas, and feel free to, if you have any questions, you can put them in the Q&A, or I think maybe you can chat us as well. So search engine optimization is so key. Like, this is basically how the search engines can find you, and or does it make it easier for you to be found? Um, so a lot of the rule is basically link to your website, put make a post, get backlinks, and do as much as you can. If you're quoted in a media article, try to get that link to your website, or constantly creating those, making it easier for the searches to find you. Now, I want to make a point here. One of the things people, um, Google has been the primary area for a very, very, very long time. Pretty much the majority of the time I've been practicing. And so there's lots of different changes, and they always kept us on their toes of what was going on. And so that I think we always had to hire a consultant or do something different, or, whether our ads were going to work or what have you. Um, One of the things, like the Google My Business account, is really critical for the SEO for Google and other search engines. So making sure that you've completed that as much as possible. There are also lots of different add-ons they have there. So that's where you put your name, your business, your contact information. You want that to be as consistent everywhere as possible, the name, email, phone number, or whatever information you provide. But I've noticed that Google My Business has added lots of different features, like questions or like chats, or I don't know. There's lots of different things to that. So you need to take a look at that on a regular basis. Um, but I will want to make a note here. I feel like Google has been losing some of its power because of a lot of the AI searches that, and I think that people are using ChatGPT, Claude, um, Gemini, all of these other different tools out there, whichever one's your favorite, instead of Google. And I think we're going to be seeing some transition in the future. And I know some firms, I started using Google Ads in like 2009, and I had a big impact or 2010, within my first year of having my firm. I did something crazy. I stopped doing my Google Ads last year, and really haven't seen that much of a difference in our business. We're still doing really great. But I know for like PI firms and some other firms, like they wouldn't imagine ever doing that. But I think it also is dependent on all your other sources, and what are you doing to like feed the SEO and basically the whole referral sources as well. So anyway, I know that that might sound a little bit shocking, but that's what I did. And so here, where are the places you could have SEO: website, blogs, online directories. I remember when I started, I got my name on everything that was free or cheap. And that's where with Justia, I think I got one of my first clients from the directory there. So I have a special place in my heart for that. I think back in 2009. So that was great, because they had that directory that they still do, and I really appreciated that, because clients found me from there. So articles and AI search engines. Let's keep going. So newsletter. I'd love if I could ask how many people do a newsletter, but I'll just play imaginary on the poll there. But some people might be like, well, why do you do that? Well, because what I've noticed is that, let me go back. There, under the prior Trump administration, there were so many changes, like right now, in immigration, that this was one of the things I needed to get information out right early to my clients. And so but even before that, we were doing an e-newsletter in English and Spanish every other week, and we would consolidate all of the key highlights within immigration. Now, some areas are not as dynamic and have as much change, so you might want to just do once a month. But even building up to that requires that you're collecting the emails, you're getting them. We get them from we get them from the intake from our CRM, and then it gets them automatically added to, well, actually, we're using Lawmatics for our newsletter for the law firm. We used to use MailChimp, but we use MailChimp for Power Strategy Group. Um, and MailChimp, and what was the other one? Constant Contact are sort of like the big ones that are just primarily e-newsletters and have some other CRM components to them. But anyway, ultimately, I can tell you business picks up on the days we send out the newsletter. People are grateful that we're providing that information and being a resource. So consider the frequency, the language, and the content. And this has been a great tool. And I'm really grateful that we do it. I've also heard people say that they use this when some attorneys are beginning to try to sell their practices or close up shop. Sometimes they'll sell their book of business, their list, and then the firm that acquires that list will add it to their newsletter and find a way to mine potential business from that. And so, anyway, that's another thing to consider as well. But I highly suggest my newsletter. I'm glad that I've been collecting emails for this whole time. And I think that's probably what's allowed me to go without needing the Google ads, actually, probably, with all the other sources of work we do. Okay, so you need a website, right? Okay, duh. But you also want it to not to be too fancy. You don't want it to be too, there's that whole flash, no flash, how slow it is. You need to make check sure that all the pages are updated, that there's that it's not too hard to uh, navigate it. That if you get stuck, you have like maybe a search engine or like a check-in, a chat. It could be good to have different languages, accessibility, obviously, being able to be fast at speed, and for law firms that we list, one our attorneys having a link for that also helps with the SEO. But I think you don't have to be too crazy about websites. You just have to have it. It's basically just a digital brochure, and also, they're a lot easier to make than they were back when I started. And what else is there? Yeah, I think just make sure you're paying attention to it every once in a while. You don't just like set it and forget it. Okay, let's move over to social media. So this can help increase that brand awareness and drive traffic. Now, I would say it's hard to be all things to all people, like we mentioned at the beginning. And so you want to think about, where's your ideal client and where do they live? Are they more on Facebook? Are they more on Instagram? Are they more on TikTok? Are they on YouTube? Um, where where do your ideal clients live? Where can you find more of them? And how can you be consistent with your messaging? What you say on Twitter or Blue Sky is not necessarily what you would want to put on YouTube, but you can try to have a lot of consistency, but your audience is different. In my book, I talk about how many followers around the world are in each one of the major social media. It's not too old. I mean, it was published less than a year ago, but there are some things out there to be able to that you can do. I have 25,000 followers on TikTok. And for some people, that's a lot. Some people, that's not anything, for some of my influencer friends. But I feel like I wanted to join the trend early. I was given bad advice to say, just stick to YouTube shorts, and I missed the boat. And so I have to live with that. But I've been working on building up my content. I do TikTok lives to give updates and to build more followers and connection and answer questions. But it can be fun. You don't have to do the dances and the songs and the trends, but they do help you get more following. I've been told by a judge they watched my TikTok. My student told me they watched me last night. They saw me on TikTok. I have to remember that people watch the stuff that I bump into. So anyway, but this can be a great way. I mean, I don't think I pay TikTok anything. So that's what's beautiful about this, is to be able to just get your reach with very low cost. Facebook has a little bit. Let's go back for a second though. TikTok is not just like little teens dancing. There's a lot of people, grown-ups there too. Okay. My daughter loves. Actually, I think both of my kids are really on TikTok, unfortunately. But I'll just say that it does provide some niche focus, and so it is a great way for people to share information. Facebook. Well, I think we have a little bit of an older generation here, and so there could be some different groups with languages as well. But making sure you have those client reviews, you can do Facebook Lives, and you can be able to post. There's lots of different Facebook groups and communities. Some people use that as a way to either create a Facebook group, to be able to garner a community. Um, that's just another thing to think about as well. Instagram, okay, so this is part of Meta, Facebook and Instagram together. It's more visual, and it's also, it's sort of funny because like I was posting like what I was doing recently, and you can post the same thing on your Facebook and your Instagram, and you can use like the Hootsuite to post on everything. That's what we use, a lot of Hootsuite to post on our different social media and change it based on the different platforms. But it's a little bit younger group than the Facebook. The Facebook. YouTube is where people go to be entertained and to solve their DIY problem. This is it. Listen to music, a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, I'm pretty much on it a lot. We actually got sucked into a really fun show recently, and I was actually quite fascinated that we were watching YouTube for entertainment as a family around the TV versus like being on Netflix or something else. But don't underestimate it. And one other thing, with YouTube, you can also monetize it as well, which is great with a certain amount of followers and watches and things like that and downloads. So this could be a place where you can give a lot of information, short form or long form, just in general, due to attention span and to be able to attract the late person. We don't like them to be more than about 15-20 minutes. But I was giving like almost CLE level things for a while, and I realized that was ridiculous. But anyway, so this is a really great place as well. So and then LinkedIn, I mean, I told my students last night, like you all need to have LinkedIn. It's sort of like the professional Facebook. I used to think it was just for people looking for jobs, but I think something happened. I think Microsoft bought it or something. Something happened the last handful of years and it's changed. And I'll tell you, my office manager was like, "Why are we paying for LinkedIn Premium?" And I was like, well, I think it's because I need the in-mails to email people that I meet because I'm limited with how many if I don't have it. And so I was like, okay, I'll get rid of it. And then I literally got rid of it for like one day. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to all these conferences. I need to connect with my students, a whole bunch of people. I mean, so I just went ahead and bought for a whole month. I'm not getting any LinkedIn money for this story, but I use it not I and actually was telling another business owner about this, and he was like, he saved himself a whole bunch of money because he found a C-suite employee based off of a post he had on LinkedIn, and he didn't have to hire a recruiter. So there could be different reasons, but it also can depend on where your clients are. So I have employment investment based immigration clients can also, and the HRs and recruiters and all those types of folks live on LinkedIn. So and a funny story, I find sometimes I can reach a person by messaging them on LinkedIn better than I can if I can get them on by email. So sometimes I do that as well. But I don't know if anyone else has noticed that too. But anyway, you also, for all of the things I just said, you should have a page for your law firm as well as you could have one for your personal preference. But I think in general, we're talking about your law firm. What happens is that my link to personal LinkedIn and my personal Facebook and for most of my personal stuff has a lot of followers. And so we sometimes repost or we'll put something law firm related on my personal accounts. Okay. So you want to make sure that you're monitoring that quality and that you're finding ways to recycle. So one of the things that I do, so we use Hootsuite to post and make sure it's timed and put it on the different accounts. We can the more you pay the service, you can have more of a you can update you could have more accounts that can be tied to it. Okay, so one of the things that I do is I have a scripts that my marketing assistant gives me, and then I'll just read off of those. Read off of them, or I'll sort of ad lib a little bit, and I'll do short videos of about 1 minute. I get my phone out and I record, and if you try to be too fancy, then you won't do it. So okay, I don't think you could. All right, so I have this like little tripod thing. Um, Anyway, it can hold 2 phones and devices, and I have it nearby. And then, you could put multiple phones. You also could log in to, so I'm confusing 2 things. One of them is to do just regular video. So let me do that one first. So I put my phone on that little tripod, some light, and I'll record. And then I'll WhatsApp my videos to my assistant who's in another country. The WhatsApp retains the HD quality and as opposed to using some other way. And I don't really have a problem with the transfer of data. And then she'll put out the title, the appropriate subtitles and put some graphic and make it look cool. And then she'll put it on, tweak it to be on all the different social media accounts. But if you were to going back to recycling content, if you were to, just basically just having good quality content. She's also able to put it on all those different platforms, but then she could also take the audio and turn it into a transcript and turn it into an article or a blog that we can double check. But the high quality content for the having good set. So like I like these beats. I have a Shure M7 something something mic podcast microphone, but you could use it for other things. I also have the little portable microphones that I can use. And so you want to be thinking about the content, the audio and the video. And honestly, you might be like, I'm too busy to do that. Yeah, we're all too busy to make content, but it becomes like a muscle you have to continue to grow and to strengthen yourself. I sometimes record in my car when I'm waiting to pick up my kids, sometimes at night after a long day. And I try to find time because I know I have to do like I think 30 videos a week at a minimum, so that she has enough content. So uh, in terms of if I were to take like the transcript of this and I were to take different segments of the transcript, I could turn it into multiple articles. And so think about that. If you were to do a webinar on a topic that you teach on, or you're wanting to attract clients for, like for example, asylum, what to expect in asylum interview. I could not only have the YouTube video and make little shorts out of it and put it in different places, but I also, using different AI tools, but I could also turn that transcript into articles. And so those are just some of the things to think about. Um, okay. I think it's still good to have business cards. You might not need to have the paper business cards, but I feel like it just sort of helps make it more possible to have something happen. We do have the digital one. I think the other thing a lot of people do is they have that on your LinkedIn. There's a QR code that you can scan people, just to have an action item to be able to convert those contacts when you're out and about at a conference. And so I was just about to try to find that place where it is, but there is there's like a QR code on your LinkedIn on your phone, and then it makes it easy for you to connect. I think it's over. Okay. Anyway, you can find it. Just play around with it. You can find it. Um, but make a goal to connect and follow up, especially with conferences or when you're out at meetings and things like that. Okay, so marketing swag, I think during the pandemic, like some of us might have stopped buying things because we're not out and about. The funny thing is, I think one of the last ones I bought was some hand sanitizers before the pandemic. Like those came in handy, but think about what can people use, what can people appreciate, and then you don't want it to just be like cute and funny and thrown away or something like that. Like someone gave away some glass cleaners rug thingy, which I think that's what this is. I'm like, I need that. I'm starting to wear glasses. I think you could probably clean your phone with it too. I love pens and I'm picky about my pens. So I found one, I think it's called from pins.com, but that's where I get like these pins from. And it's got like a little stylus and it's good. And I like that. And I'm pretty picky about that. I used to do calendars. I have some mugs. Um, I also have, even though we have a screen, I do have like a small little, I don't know if you can see it, but it's like a small little sign that you can put up on a table. And it's sort of like a travel, got from Vistaprint. It's like a travel pop-up sign that you can put in your like carry-on luggage. So you don't need to have too much big bulky stuff. And I also like these shirts. I've been buying some of those shirts and it's almost like a uniform for me now. And I take them when I wear them when I'm at conference, like hall conferences and things like that. Um, okay. So, consider how many things that you might want to have in terms of swag, but being mindful of not being wasteful, but what do people really want? And it's not too bulky to take with you somewhere to give away, but we usually have like a bag of swag we have available, and I take it when I do in-person presentations. All right. So try to be reuse, recycle as much content as possible, thinking about how back to, who's your ideal client, how do you want to find them? How can you share the message of what your firm differentiates you from other firms, and how you can help them with their journey through their legal challenges. And so making this content is it is more than just posting, and you need to make sure you have a strategy along the way. Other ways could be through articles and books. You could write an ebook and have like a lead magnet for having clients come to your website or after a speech or something like that. There also could be so I've written two books. The funny thing is it wasn't for clients for law firms, but it could be. I think some divorce attorneys have written some books about the process of divorce and things like that. The other, who's your audience? Are you doing this to help expect to build yourself as an expert? I write articles for the Above the Law, the ABA Law Practice Magazine, and Texas Bar Journal on a pretty regular basis, like columnist. And so that's building me as an expert in law practice management and helping me gain my reach there. So as a thought leader, so thinking about those things, but also who's your audience and how do you want to attract them? Think it's also the old school networking and being purposeful in this as well, from seeking referrals, getting testimonials, going to different community groups and meetings, business owners, Rotary, those types of things. And then you also can be leveraging LinkedIn and different social media. You could write an article and have your newsletter with through LinkedIn. Actually, you could also be doing reposts in other places. You can pitch to yourself as an expert to speak at these different groups. A lot of them are looking for speakers on a regular basis, and so these are ways to continue to get out there. You never know where your next client's going to come from, and so you want to make sure that you're out there. If you just, if you just put your head down and do the work, the work's going to dry up at some point, and so you need to be able to continue to get out there and hustle. I've just sort of had always been doing that, and now, but when you're checking to find out where clients come from, when you're doing that, because you should be on the intake, then it helps you also understand where your efforts have best been used. You can also build relationships with media and do interviews. So one of the things that I learned about was when I was on, well, I'm back on it again, the American Immigration Lawyers Association Media Advocacy Committee. I did a lot of media inquiries, which can be great for you're building yourself as a thought leader and get your name out there, but it is actually a lot more work than people think. Building those relationships, being accessible at a moment's notice. Yesterday I was traveling for the day for an interview. I got an email, for a text from a reporter, hey, can you hop on real quick for this soundbite about this? And I was like, yes. I was really busy and I knew I wanted to continue to build that relationship, so I made it happen. But you have a lot of the reporters I've noticed in your practice area might change every couple of years. So you want to build that relationship with them and rapport. You can also pitch articles. Every once in a while, I'll send an email to my reporter list and say, hey, I just remind you I exist. If you need something, and they appreciate that because it might get to them at that moment that you need. So keep that in mind. And then if you post it on your social media, or people get used to saying, well, I always hear you on NPR, it says something. You can also do podcasting. This is like, so I love podcasting. Okay, secret. I did not listen to podcasts very much before I started a podcast, but I have gotten into them. I sort of get just confused between Audible and podcasts sometimes because you're just learning by audio, but podcasting can also be video. So you can use this for attracting, clients. And you can find ways you can do so much. And power up your practice. I invite a lot of different experts, and I'm always learning and I love it. And I'm sharing that information. And now I'm getting posts on LinkedIn saying, people messaging me saying, thank you so much for doing that. And, it also builds a lot of goodwill. It's a win-win-win. I'm learning, people are promoting what they know, and I know it helps connect others together. And you can use audio, video, and it's a great way to build your network. And So I'm always looking for guests for my podcast. So feel free to message me if you are interested, but it's called Power Up Your Practice. Don't forget those reviews. Ask for the reviews unless you're not allowed to ask for them. Collect them. Try to get them where they'll get the biggest bang for the buck, which is usually Gmail, but it's not, I mean, sorry, Google, but it could also be other places as well. Make sure somebody's in charge at your firm to responding to them, and that you're requesting them if it's acceptable in your jurisdiction. And like we had a happy client come in today. They gave us like beautiful bouquet of flowers and some chocolates and a bottle of champagne. Okay, this is not a typical day, but I mean, I was like, okay, like I love this. And then we took a photo with them. We blurred the faces of the family. We said, could we use this? You know, we showed them what we were going to post. They said yes. And then right afterwards, we got a really good review by that client on Google. So that was awesome. That was a great day for that. So keep this in mind. You can also have them in different languages. And the reason why you also want to watch them is because if you get some bad ones, you want to make sure that you either are trying to challenge them, make comments, or work with the individual who gave them to see if you can see if you can solve the issue and see if they'll uh, be able to have them take it down. Okay, so here is a list of some of the different programs that we're using, and they're not all AI related, but sort of have some AI component, but technology in general. The StreamYard is one that we use a lot for the podcast, and we also use it for the law firm as well. What's really great about this one is you can post live on multiple platforms at the same time. And so I was interviewed by a friend at a conference. He just got on the phone and he had a like little tripod thing, and he said, we started interviewing. He was on StreamYard and he was recording it. But if he wanted to, he could go live. Another podcast friend that I was on, my friend's podcast, he also put it, he streamed it Yard. We didn't stream on StreamYard live. We did not have any one of our assistants available at the time. It was after hours, but we were able to do it, and I was able to promote it on my own social media accounts myself. We're using ChatGPT a lot for getting good copy or prompts or ideas or scripts. We have the paid account. You could use some other AI tool as well. But when it first came out, I told my marketing team right away to be able to use that tool, and especially with my marketing assistants that don't have English as their first language, it was a way to make it sound more professional. You know, I think you also have to watch for the voice to make sure that you're not making it sound too AI, that you're making it more fluid and approachable to the client that you're trying to reach. VIO, there's also Descript. There's a lot of different programs out there. In fact, even before this, I was taking a look and was reviewing which AI tools would ChatGPT suggest, and you could just do that and sort of see what it suggests. But there is an AI for that. There's a lot of different programs you can see there. Um, but the video editing, you can add the subtitles, the script generator. You can take clips of different the larger videos and use them in different ways to use for all the different social media platforms. Calendly, I mean, it can sync with the different emails and with a Zap and some other different ways. We use that with our podcast scheduling, but you can use it different ways with the clients as well. And um, whether you are using like a note taker, Fireflies, what's that other one on Zoom? I just saw it today. Fathom, Otter AI. There's so many different ones out there that you can turn audio into transcript to turn with AI tools to turn into a blogs. So we'll open up to questions. I just want to mention one last thing, but feel free to stay in touch with me. We have a school community. We have a newsletter. We have a toolkit of our different AI tools. And you need to go back to your numbers. You need to analyze, where are you getting the clients? What efforts have you done have led to the clients that you've acquired the most, and do you want to continue to do those efforts? Some of my friends that do a lot of their work in that are influencers, I guess you could say, sometimes they get the clients that they're not really interested in, they refer it out. So I think the question is like, where can you get the biggest bang for the buck for the efforts that you're trying to get attracting? So I think making sure that you're not wasting your efforts on attracting the wrong type of client. So analyzing, where do they come from? Where can you get more of the ones that you do want? And also evaluating the conversion rate. So feel free to stay in touch different ways through the podcast, through the book. But that I find that marketing is and branding is so much fun. It's really trying to get out there and find the clients. And I think the more you get out there and the more you do it, the more you can find ways to continue to grow. But some of the things that we did back in the day, back in 2009 when I started, I'm still doing. But some of the things I've changed. And so that's finding that healthy dose of these are the things that you're going to continue to do, and these are things that are changing because of the consumer is changing, the market is changing, um, the way the clients find you is changing. And so having that healthy dose of that. The way I set up my team is I have a marketing assistant who's the full-time posting and sort of newsletter, editing videos, recording webinars with me. And then I have a strategist who helps oversee our plan and making sure that we're on top of our game of like what the changes are. And then together as a team, we're working on it. We have some contractors who are experts in different spaces, like with website or other areas that we use as needed. And that's just the way I choose to do it. Some people ask me that instead of having a marketing firm, but that's just my preference. But anyway, feel free to open up to any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ruby, for that wonderful presentation. I just want to remind you all that if you do have questions, you can submit those by clicking the Q&A button in the control panel at the bottom of the screen and submitting them there. We already have a couple. So
Okay.
the first one is from an anonymous attendee. It's specifically about where you use the QR code that you've created. So they ask, do you use it on your phone? Do you put it on business cards? What would you recommend there?
So you can use a QR code in different places. Like I could have one at the end of a presentation and say, go here, and you can collect the person's email. And then you give them like a lead magnet for, your a report on, I don't know, whatever it is, like top 10 tips on how to navigate immigration law or something like that. You could have it also on your phone. Some people make like a little sticker and they just have it on their phone and like boop, boop, boop. I have an Android, so all the iPhone people are always like, why are you not iPhone? Anyway, one day I might convert. But anyway, so whatever the platform that's winning of the day in terms of different things from the e-card, but also in like connecting and also potentially for the lead magnet. So there's different ways. And then we also have a final slide on our presentations. We do a webinars in English and Spanish every week, just sort of like the ones I was sharing here, where we have a way to contact us at the very end. And usually that's where it says, our social media accounts and how to get connected on our newsletter.
Awesome. Thanks for that additional insight, Ruby. Our next question comes from Andrew. They ask, how would you recommend capitalizing on your board certified status? Where do you use that in your branding?
Okay. So I was just thinking about because I was mentoring my associate on taking it soon. I took it like 13, 12, 12, I don't know, 12 years ago. I don't know I don't know. Time is going by. Ah, well, you get the little logo. And so it's on your email. And so people notice that it can be on your profile, it can be on your LinkedIn. You can explain it every once in a while to people what the difference is. Look, it's not in every state. It's like in only a handful of states. So I understand it can be challenging if you're not licensed in one of those states and could even be able to do it. But I do try to explain that it is a specialty and that, for example, there's like only 200 board certified immigration attorneys in all of Texas. And so that's a very small, like it's like point, I don't know, it's like a very small percentage. And so it really is more of an educational tool. But I think when people see it, they're like, oh, that sounds cool. But I really don't think I make a big deal about it that often.
Thank you for that insight.
Yeah.
Our next question is from Naylil. They ask, how do you recommend finding where ideal clients are at, especially in immigration? That can be anyone from any country. So, how do you find exactly who you should aim for?
Mm. Well, one thing I think you could do is you could just do a little survey for some ideal clients that you've already helped service or are pending and ask them like, "Hey, I'm trying to find more people like you. I'm trying to help others navigate this journey of this complicated area of law. Where do you think I could find more people that I could help?" And maybe it's at their church or their school or something like that. And then you just sort of take it one step at a time. Or, oh, there's minister or this real estate agent or this community leader. You should go have coffee or, have lunch with them and see where it goes. And that sort of happened with me at the Mexican consulate. I have been growing my relationship with them. And then they have relationship with other like constables and law enforcement. So sometimes I get pulled into doing speeches with them and you never know where it can go. So that's a good tip. But feel free to reach out to me and ask more questions if you want.
Thanks, Ruby. And her LinkedIn is in the chat if you do want to go ahead and connect with her there. The link is there. We have time for a couple more questions. So the next one is also from an anonymous attendee. They ask, how do I know if I'm using email and newsletters in a way that actually builds client relationships rather than sending updates that might not connect with them?
I think you can tell by the response, the open rate, the how many people you can see an uptick in calls afterwards. If people mention it and they interaction rate, if they can, you can tell that like they'll tell me like I got it from your newsletter or I forward it to my neighbor or my friend or my colleague. I think that's or they'll say, I thank you for your the newsletter. And sometimes they're not reading it all the time. Like I'm on newsletters, I don't read all the time and I forward to filter, right? But sometimes I just want to go there and be like, what's going on? And sort of see what the headlines are. So that might be a good way, but you can always poll your clients and the people on it and ask them what would you like to see more of. And again, I know email is email, right? But we and there's also a lot of people watch their text over email, but I think there's still something about being top of mind, especially when it comes in and they know that to expect it and they see that headline, even if they don't even read it, they're still thinking about it. And you got few seconds of their brain bandwidth that went, and then they'll be thinking about you.
Thank you, Ruby. Our last question for today is about brand related metrics. So, you already touched on some metrics you can keep an eye on for newsletters, but with other branding strategies, are there specific metrics that you recommend paying the most attention to?
I think you want to watch some of the numbers I watch the most are the all the different the contacts or going back to the awareness. And then I go to how many consultations happen. And then within my firm, I break it down into different areas of in terms of within my area is employment-based family asylum and immigration court because I'm wanting to sort of see how who am I attracting more of, and then I check to see how many cases we have within the each month, and then I think you also and honestly I forgot to mention one other thing. I'm also using a bot to respond to the DMs on my social media to convert them to consultations as well. So the more data you have of how people originally find you, how they go through the sales funnel to who hires you and who do you want more of, that and you can use your existing maybe CRM and case management software, but if this isn't being collected then you want to make sure that information is being collected. I use Lawmatics, I think I mentioned, for CRM, and but we're constantly improving our systems as well into collecting that data so we can gauge our return on investment and if we're losing anyone unnecessarily.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ruby, for all of those additional insights and answering our audience questions. And thank you all so much for submitting those questions. We really appreciate your participation. We want to thank you all so much for joining us for another Justia webinar. And I did want to remind you all, as I did at the top of the presentation, of the services available to you for our website platform, Justia Elevate. It is our innovative, feature-packed website solution that is designed specifically for law firms. It's built on a WordPress platform and offers tools like the Justia AI Writer to help you boost your content and the AI-powered Justia Chat to help you capture even more leads. If you'd like to learn more about how much it costs for your firm and your needs, you can go to elevate.justia.com/price or call us at 888-587-8421. Thank you all so much for joining and have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy it, please click the like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos on law practice and legal marketing. See you in our next video.